Welcome to our channel, Gray Matters. We are two neurodivergent ladies who fixate and need to share, and we've created this channel to do just that. Check out our podcast, Fixate Today, Gone Tomorrow, for some deeper dives.
Hello all. Before we start, I just want to warn everyone that today's subject matter is dark and may be triggering for some listeners. Also, throughout the video, you will hear cuts from JP's neighbor's 911 call.
Welcome to Fixate Today, Gray Matters. Today, we are going to be talking about the definition of sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Human trafficking is defined by the U.S. Department of State as crimes whereby traffickers exploit and profit at the expense of adults or children by compelling them to perform labor or engage in commercial sex.
This is Horry County Dispatch. Can I help you?
Sure, I was talking to a lady. She sent me you.
Okay.
What I'm calling for, we're in the neighborhood of Cascades. This is where that preacher guy, which everybody knows he's crazy out here, and his wife apparently, which we know she didn't shoot herself.
Sex trafficking is defined by the U.S. Department of State as, quote, the range of activities involved when a trafficker uses force, fraud, or coercion to compel another person to engage in a commercial sex act or causes a child to engage in a commercial sex act.
Hi, I'm Detective Joseph Scaramucci with the McLennan County Sheriff's Office. I've worked hundreds of trafficking cases over the past 6 years, and I want to share with you what I've learned about traffickers and buyers. First, we have to understand that human trafficking, like all industries generating profit, is about supply and demand. We know that the supply side of human trafficking is the victims, the people who are used and exploited. The demand side is the buyers, the people who are seeking to pay for the services provided by victims. And the person in the middle is the trafficker. The trafficker is a person who, through force, fraud, or coercion, is providing the victim to the buyer. So who are these sex traffickers? In sex trafficking, a trafficker may be better known as a pimp. Now take a minute and think about what comes to mind when you think of the word pimp. Based on music and movies, you probably have a pretty distinct image of what comes to mind. But as someone who has encountered and arrested a lot of pimps over the years, I have to tell you, most don't look like this. I'm about to show you a group.
It is easier to prosecute child sex trafficking because a child can never legally consent to any sex act, commercial or otherwise. All facets of trafficking are considered illegal, from recruiting, harboring, providing, transporting, and soliciting.
Around America. These stories remind us that traffickers come in many forms. They could be from the United States or they could be from another country. They could be family members or partners of the victims or total strangers. Traffickers can be male or female. They could be individuals, part of an organized group, or gangs. Another group guilty of human trafficking is recruiters. A recruiter is used by a trafficker to find potential victims. These recruiters often seek out vulnerabilities that make a person easier to manipulate. Things like low self-esteem, history of abuse, running away from home, or unsupervised internet access increase a young person's vulnerability. Recruiters look for their victims in places where youth are often unsupervised. They might hang out.
Had a bunch of Filipino girls or except I don't know if what's going on in there, but the neighbor also saw him beating one of those girls up not too long ago. He can be, tell the police about it. The mail lady just went down there and she said there's always different young Oriental girls in that house, and then they're now.
Labor trafficking is defined by the U.S. Department of State as, quote, when a person uses force, fraud, or coercion to exploit the labor or services of another person. Labor trafficking includes domestic servitude and forced child labor. It is illegal to recruit, transport, or harbor labor trafficking victims. Methods of force, fraud, and coercion are the same as sex trafficking, including threats, psychological coercion, confiscating documents, withholding pay, and debt manipulation or bondage. Anyone who is exploiting a person's labor or services is engaged in labor trafficking.
It is important for street-level law enforcement officers to be aware of the red flags that might indicate that human and labor trafficking is present within their communities. Officers and deputies on routine patrol may encounter a situation involving labor trafficking, but because of a lack of awareness or training, they might not recognize the situation as a crime and fail to make inquiries or take appropriate action to intervene. The locations and settings where trafficking occur do not always appear suspicious, and trafficking often occurs in very public places, such as restaurants and hotels. Officers and deputies should be aware that the indicators of labor trafficking may not be the settings themselves, but rather may be evident through the conditions and circumstances observed in the victim.
I guess I don't know what he's going. I know they're doing an investigation into her death because she had just filed for divorce and all. And, you know, we all know her from running and everything, and she ended up dead. But I think somebody might want to go by that house and see what's going on because it don't look good for this neighborhood. And her mom's out here, there's older people out here in this neighborhood. Something's going on.
Unsupervised. They might hang out at malls and parks, befriend youth in schools or local libraries, meet runaway youth at a bus stop, youth shelters, or online. Even though a recruiter isn't the person directly selling or trafficking the victim, according to the law, they are still guilty of human trafficking. So we know traffickers and recruiters do what they do so they can make a profit. But who's driving the demand? The buyers. Like traffickers, buyers also come in many forms. Over the years, I've arrested more than 450 buyers in human trafficking stings. I've picked up buyers as young as 17 years old and as old as 75. They come from every segment of society. They are married and single, businessmen, doctors, construction workers, and the unemployed, just passing through, or prominent community members. Most buyers are there because they, 1, think it's a victimless crime, 2, think they won't get caught, and 3, have a sex addiction or feel unable to get their sexual needs met in any appropriate way. But the truth is this.
Y'all might want to check it because there's something going on. They got like sheets all over the windows and don't look right in this neighborhood.
They have what all over the window?
And like I said,
Oh, sheets.
it looks like they got sheets put over it now since all this. And we did see him fly in there and fly out of there because he almost hit us in his blue truck and he took off. That was on Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he sneaks in there and leaves. But those Orientals in there, and like I said, I think that was her house.
Trafficking can take place even if a person initially consented to providing labor or services or commercial sex acts. The initial willingness of a victim doesn't matter. In addition, movement of victims isn't necessary to be considered trafficking. Means of engaging a person in sex trafficking include threats of physical or mental harm, threats to others, psychological coercion, confiscating identifying documents, withholding pay, and debt manipulation or debt bondage.
But you heard about it. Everything going on with the, what's the name? Rock Church, Solid Rock Church.
Okay.
It's the Miller, J.P. Miller, and like you say, she filed for divorce. 2 days later, she's dead. So there's something going on in there. It's been going on a while. Like I said, the neighbor saw one of them, the boy, because he's real crazy, beating the girl on the back, but I don't know why he didn't call the police.
Let's look at South Carolina. The first comprehensive trafficking legislation was passed in South Carolina in 2012. This legislation increased penalties, created criminal liability for business owners, made pursuing civil action for victims more streamlined, and allowed for asset forfeiture from convicted traffickers. In 2015, the state grand jury was given jurisdiction for trafficking cases, which allowed investigations to expand and minimized re-traumatization of victims. In 2021, the South Carolina Child Abuse Response Protocol Act was passed, which includes the use of child advocacy centers and procedures for investigations when reports of abuse are taken at schools.
Said that she committed suicide, but all the people got Facebook. They know he killed. You know how that goes.
Right.
He beat it all the time. He really did. He's a crazy guy. Involving young kids and young girls, and of course the church now is just saying that. Somebody should come up and say that longer, and she'd be alive today.
What makes South Carolina a hotbed for trafficking? Well, it's a combination of things. The geography of the state and its various transportation infrastructures combine to make a perfect storm for traffickers. Charleston, Georgia, and Port Royal all have bustling seaports, with Charleston's being one of the busiest for container traffic in the country. South Carolina has lots of airports in Charleston, Columbia, Greenville, Spartanburg, and Myrtle Beach that connect to every major city in the U.S., including direct flights to New York City and Houston.
I don't know if there's any weapons in there. I know they said the girl shot herself. I don't know if it happened there. Somebody told me that the mail, they thought she did in Charleston, which don't make sense, but nobody knows.
Okay.
I don't know what's in that house.
And is there anyone in danger right now?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what's going on inside that house or not.
Right.
There's a black car out there. I know they got the windows and all. They'll see when they see the house.
Okay.
Yeah, he slipped in and he ran out of there. So I don't know if he was. I know he had a restraining order on him, and I don't even think he was supposed to be around that house. But I don't. Like I said, she ended up dead. You know how that goes.
All right.
Small aircrafts are able to use grass runways along the coast. South Carolina has interstate highways that connect the state to the East Coast and the southwest of the U.S. Notably, Myrtle Beach hosts an annual event each May called Bike Week. Thousands of motorcycle riders come to Myrtle Beach. Outlaw motorcycle gangs have traditionally been linked to trafficking.
No, I had no idea, but the post lady did it always, and she saw them in a while ago, because they came to the door and got some packages she delivered. She knows there's always something, and the other man that used to be there said there's always something shady going in there with that boy and everything, which it is. They're young.
Human trafficking is one of the forms of trauma that when you really understand what people are going through and what is being done to them, if you believe in any kind of existential philosophy, I think it is as close to true evil as I have ever seen in my work with people who have been harmed by other people. And I do a lot of work in interpersonal violence.
South Carolina is the perfect hub for labor and sex trafficking.
I've kind of had to keep my circle really small for the past couple weeks, just because I'm going through a lot and it's hard, and it's my cross to bear. It's the thing that God has put in my life to deal with, and I don't want to bring a lot of people into it. I'm so thankful to God for a strong family and the friends that God has put in my life to be there for me at this time. I'm trying to get my priorities straight right now. And that's making sure that my heart doesn't have any unforgiveness, bitterness, resentment, just forgiveness and hope for the future and peace. Because you can't put a price on peace.
Thank you for listening. Please comment, like, and subscribe. You can also check out our podcast, Fixate Today, Gone Tomorrow, for more content. Have anything you'd like us to fixate on? Reach out and let us know. Thanks for joining us. Disclaimer: we are not investigators, journalists, detectives, law enforcement, or historians. We are two neurodivergent ladies who just hyperfixate. Please do not take our opinions and ideas as statements of fact. All allegations are just that. We are not accusing anyone of anything, simply offering our interpretation of what we've researched.